Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, Janet. Good morning.
Hi, Betty. Hi, Whitney.
How are you?
Morning, good morning.
What are you working on, Betty?
I just finished some scarves that I'm gonna donate to the senior center. I had read that they were looking for like scarves and hats and mittens and stuff for the guests at the soup kitchen. So my sister had sent me this really thick yarn, and it uses an N. You can't see it that well because it's black. Somebody gave it to her, and then she basically crochets for babies and toddlers. So she sent me the yarn. It uses an end needle, so it feels like rope. And I said, "Oh, this would be perfect because it's for adults, and I can, make the scarves and donate it to them." Anything that I make, I'm donating because it's not anything that I need or want. So, and I'm gonna be going out later to Target, so I'll pick up some, probably some hats or whatever they might have to include in this.
So what I had prepared today was to put together our houses quilt, and I've been wanting to show you how to layer things, and I hadn't gotten the right layout. So I think we're going to be okay with this. So you'll give me feedback, please. Okay, great. So I've got 3 things here. I have our top that we did. I have the batting to go inside of it, and I have the backing. And the backing, one of the people who had donated materials to the senior center gave us 3 yards of a very nice green flannel. And I thought flannel might be nice for our quilt. So on the back of this, I'm thinking to put this flannel. And the flannel was 44 inches wide. And I measured the top, and our top is 49 inches wide. So to get from 45 to 49, we're going to need to add some extra, and we need a little bit more than that in order to be sure to have enough for the backing. When you use the backing and the stuffing, the batting, it needs to be a few inches bigger than the dimensions you want the top. So if the top is 49, then I worked to 51 inches across the top. And in order to take a 44-inch piece of material and make it wider, what I did was to add some on both sides of it. I don't know if you can see the seam here, but I've added 4.5 inches on each side to this piece of material.
Joyce, is flannel something that will shrink really a lot?
No, and I pre-washed it.
But you did already?
Yeah, I did pre-wash it. I pre-wash everything for that reason, Janet, because different materials do shrink at different rates. So if you pre-wash it, you have less shrinkage after you've assembled it.
Good thing to remember. Thank you.
All right. So in order to get it really centered, I'm going to start it at the top. So I have the width of it across my table, and I'm going to add the batting. So I have the backing on the table with the good side to the table. Okay, because we're working on the inside of the quilt. And now I'm going to take the batting and open it up, and I've pre-cut this also to a little bit bigger than the top. When you send it out to be quilted like we did for the big one, they want 4 inches more on all sides, which is a lot. But when you're doing it yourself, 2 inches is fine. You can control it better when you do that. So I'm putting the batting on top. And more or less centering it. I'm just going to lay it flat. And now that I've got it going, I can turn it a little bit. But the objective of this step is to get the batting on the back very flat and get all the wrinkles out. You don't want any wrinkles in the middle. So whether it's a wrinkle in the batting or a wrinkle in the backing, we're smoothing it out. And I'm just using my hand, work it from the center out. I got a little lump here. I'm pulling the backing to get rid of that lump and smoothing it with my hand. Now, get more on the table and keep going. To cling together, and the batting is clingy. You know, the batting itself is sort of like a flannel board. So once you get this done, they'll stick together reasonably well. They don't slide around too much.
Yeah, static electricity will glue them. Joyce, would it be all right to do that on a bed?
No,
And no. So
no.
it makes good space, but it's not hard enough to really feel where there's a lump. And what I just did here, the seams that I did when I put the piece on the edge, this seemed to be going in one direction, lying down nice and flat. You were asking if you could do it on the bed. It would be better to do it on the dining table. So I have the batting and the backing clinging together, and they're nice and flat. So I'm just feeling it, moving out. Make sure that join is, the seams are all moving in the same direction. This feels a little lumpy. I'm gonna smooth it out. Yep. All right, so that's pretty much step one. Now we're going to put the top on. With my hand, are there any lumps or bumps that I want to get rid of? Because now's the time to do it. Once we get them inside this sandwich, it's going to be much harder. Now, the trick is that I want to center this on the backing. And because I put the batting on top of the backing now, I have the additional complication of I've obscured the edges. So here I'm just checking the edge. Got about a 1/2 inch between the edge of the quilt and the edge of the material. And on this side, I have about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to move it 1/2 inch to the left.
Oh my God.
So I'm giving myself a margin at the top. And margin on the side. So here, I'll turn it so maybe you can see. I've got the backing, batting, and the top. And here, I'm holding my finger where the top ends, and I've got an inch worth of backing beyond that. Now, next challenge. So I've got the top smoothed down so it'll cling a little bit. I'm going to come down here just to one end, and I'm going to check that I have the length of it going in the right direction. So if I set it so that I've got about an inch beyond the quilt, all the way along that line, and it's going straight, then I should be able to make that happen all the way down. So now I'm going to smooth it from that side to the other side. We'll do this part, this top part, get it nice and smooth, and then I'll check this edge to make sure I'm still going in a straight line.
Have I mentioned lately how grateful I am for this group?
How nice. Yep, I've got about an inch from this point. We're doing great. Okay, so now I'm going to check. We've got a lot more seams now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got all these seams under here, and I want to make sure that with my hand, I'm not feeling any particular lumps.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I pressed it before I got here to make sure that the seams were all traveling in one direction.
Right. That good old iron is a great tool.
Yeah, that good old iron. So now you can see it's sort of clinging together. So now I can move it really easily. I'm going to move all the layers together and just pull it. Get more on the table and do that again.
I saw that. It's a story quilt.
It's a story quilt.
Yeah, I like that.
Now I'm going off. I've got too much. I've got about 3 inches now. So I'm going to move this part of the top. That part's okay. This part of the top needs to come toward me more. Okay. So now I'm back to my 1 inch margin on the backing. Great. And now I can smooth it more. Here's my snowy dog. I like my snowy dog. And you see I pulled the table out so I could walk around it. That's another thing about doing whether I do it on the bed or the table. The table is a better height. It's about 6 inches higher than your bed. So it's better for your back. That's number one. And then the other thing is that it's smooth. You've got a hard surface underneath it that you could work against. And you can slide this much more easily across the table than you can across the bed, because the bed's going to cling to it. Take down some more.
Joyce, if that was a kind of smaller quilt, would you have taped down things like the backing with masking tape, or do you just?
And I have done that. If you put the backing down first and then tape it, so you don't want to pull it too much, but you can pull it taut. Make sure it's nice and taut across your table. So yeah, that is helpful. If you were at the senior center or a place like that, and you could use 2 tables together, we could get this whole thing on one table at one shot, and we wouldn't have to move it so much.
Oh, okay.
But you know, you get creative when this is what you've got. This is what you get to work with.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, now I have a little extra here. One thing I could do if I wanted to is I could cut that off, so I wouldn't have to worry about it so much. And I can see margin at the bottom for the backing. So we have a good margin all the way around on the backing. That's good. Checking all my seams. Make sure there are no lumps. Because if I need to turn a seam, now's the time. What I mean by that is you might need to flip it over and turn this, get the seam going the right way, and then put it back down, and you can coax it into the right position. Changes like that are easy right now, but they're soon going to be very hard. All right, so now the next thing I need is my big box of safety pins. What I do before I start pinning is to check it on the back. Make sure we didn't pick up any wrinkles on the back before I start pinning it. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to actually turn this over. Watch this. All right, so we're going to pull it. And I turned up that extra piece to get out of the way. Pull it like that. And now I'm going to flip it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So you can see it clung together. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing, Janet?
So you saw, now I turned it again. I've got the pretty side up. And this is the side I'm going to want up when I'm quilting. So this is where I'm going to do my pinning. And I have the back all nice and flat now. I checked that. I'm going to just give one final check here and start pinning. And the way you start pinning is from the middle.
Right, so it doesn't get gathered up. I get it.
So I'm using safety pins and I'm putting them where they're pretty obvious. I don't want them to hide out. So I'll put them on top of a light color or something like that. And also not across a joint that I'm probably going to want to quilt. So if I go down this line, I don't want them in my way. So I'm putting them sort of out of my way.
Looks beautiful, Joyce.
I think so too. I think it's gorgeous.
Colorful, yeah.
And it's always wonderful to see how much of a difference it makes once the quilt is done. That's why I'm anxious for you all to see the quilt that is now hanging in the Brookline Senior Center. Our kaleidoscope stars are hanging there.
Wow.
So Julie's going to send us pictures.
Oh, great. Good.
You. And we're going to post it on Etsy and price it at $3,000.
Wow.
How we do.
Wow. Well, Joyce, do you think Julie would let me in if I make an appointment with her?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We wish we could be there working with you, Joyce.
I know. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be a part of it also, because I think it would go, it would help if 2 or 3 people help smooth it out and learn how to pin. And
Yeah.
So in the end, one of the reasons I like this table as opposed to my dining table is that then when I'm sticking the pin in, I don't care if I scratch the surface because it's the surface that's hard to scratch. And so what you don't want to do is put your hand under it and move it around. You want to keep it nice and flat.
Right. Sounds logical. When did you come to Massachusetts?
When I went to college.
Oh,
where did you go to college?
Clark in Worcester.
Clark's a fine school.
It is. I used to watch all my roommates. It's known for psychology because Freud taught there or gave a lecture. And they've had a great psych department.
What's Clark School really specialized in? You said psychiatry?
No, engineering.
Oh, did you graduate there too, Joyce?
No, but I know a number of people who did, and it's fun school.
To my knowledge, have an engineering program.
Oh, well, then tell me.
But
But I want to change the subject on something. The Electoral College, there's talk about like abolishing it. And I'm just wondering why we haven't done that sooner.
So the reason the Electoral College was invented was to try to give each state a more clear voice in the election. So then, there's the popular vote. And if we did the popular vote, the Democrats have won the popular vote most of the time for the last century. But the Electoral College gives more weight to the smaller or rural states so that they have more of a voice. And I know one of the people who spoke in favor of the Electoral College recently said, if they abolish the Electoral College, the candidates won't go to North Dakota because it won't be worth their while. There aren't that many people there. But when they have these electoral college votes to vie for, then they do need to visit every state, and every state becomes important even if it's relatively small. So that was the whole idea. So yeah, there are good things and bad things about the Electoral College.
I still think that I don't know, if since every person has the privilege and right to vote, then every person's vote should be counted directly, like you said, by popular vote. Because the people with less electors still vote and their votes are still counted, right? So,
Yeah.
so then,
So each state votes, and then the people who win the most votes within that state win all of those electoral votes. And so, that you'll hear them talk about they have 8 votes or they have 20 votes or something like that. So the very highly populous states have more votes. California, New York, people like that. So based on the population of the state, they have so many electors. The electors are the same number of the sum of the senators and the representatives to the House of Representatives. So if they have 3 House members and 2 senators, then they have 5 electoral votes. Okay, so that's how many votes. In the beginning, those electors would go and they could cast their ballots for whoever they wanted to, really. But now most states have laws that the electors must vote for the person who won the plurality of the votes in their state.
okay, so they must vote for the plurality of the votes in that state, then why even have the electors? Know what I mean?
Yes, in some sense, it's almost pro forma, but there are some holes in the process that are in fact being exploited right now. That legally the representatives, the Congress in each state appoints the electors, and so legally they're not totally bound to vote for the person who won the most votes. And
Right.
that's one of the loopholes that has been tried to be exploited this time. So that's one of the reasons they're saying we need to tighten up this ship a little bit and trusting that people would do the right thing, but not everybody is inclined to do the right thing.
An
Definitely.
accounting system to double check that, making them accountable, because it sounds like that there's no way to make sure that they vote with a plurality.
Well, like what happened in Michigan was that if Biden would win, then there was a set of people who had been designated to be the Democratic electors and a separate body of people who had been designated to be the Republican electors. And the Republican electors tried to get into the State House and vote.
Frightening.
It's one of the reasons that the founding fathers wanted public education. Because if you're going to trust the people to vote, you need to make sure that they are making reasonable decisions that are based on some knowledge. And so if we have a public education system and we try to make sure that each of our people is, intelligent and well informed, then yes, you can trust the popular vote. But if you have a group of people who have very narrow views that have been imbued by somebody with a different philosophy about education. Okay, so I just rolled it up. And now it's ready for me to take to the other room and start stitching. So thanks for your indulgence, ladies. We got it cleared.
Well, I can't wait to see the final quilt with the brown on the outside. It's clear. Explained to us was the brown color.
With the brown on the outside. Oh, you mean the
Yeah.
other?
The trim on the, yeah.
Yeah, the binding is brown.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Goal.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So it was nice getting together. So everybody have a good day. Thanks again, Joyce, for all that you're doing for us.
Thank you. I'll send you pictures as soon as I get them.